Fun Story Factory. Today we've got a lovely book called Siggy Loves Sausages, and it's written by Brian Frederick, and it's about a little sausage dog and can he keep his promises and stop eating all the sausages. Shall we find out what happens? Let's begin. Sigmund the Dachshund lived in the little hamlet of Hope in the English county of Somerset. He lived with Phyllis and her mum and dad at number 16 Watercress Lane. When he was a little puppy, Phyllis had been very young too and wasn't able to say Sigmund, so she called him Siggy, and that's been his name ever since. Have you sometimes had problems saying someone's name and you've made up a little nickname for them? One very windy day, Siggy heard a loud commotion outside. When he went to investigate, he saw a most wondrous thing. It floated in the air, white and sparkly, with brilliant red and gold patterns. It was an expensive paper bag from a fancy lady's boutique. It swooped and soared and blew about in the wind. Siggy was transfixed. He was fascinated. Then he saw Mrs. Channer nearby. She looked upset. "Oh no, my bag," she cried. "Help me, it's my daughter's surprise birthday present." She clutched at the empty air as the bag swirled above her. Siggy watched as a great gust of wind caught the bag, taking it even higher and then rocketing off into the distance. "Don't worry, Mrs. Channer," called Siggy. "I'll catch it for you, I promise." Then off he zoomed after the bag. He chased it down the lane, around the corner and into the village marketplace. Siggy galloped past Mr. Bunn, the baker, who was opening his shop. A lovely smell wafted out of the door. Siggy looked back at him as he raced on and said, "Sorry, Mr. Bunn, I can't stop. I've got to catch this paper bag." Mr. Bunn only heard bark, bark, bark. He smiled at Siggy and replied, "Hi and goodbye, little Siggy." But the dachshund had already scampered past. Siggy lolloped on past Marco, the carpenter. He was wearing his Manchester United shirt. Marco looked up as he hammered a nail into some wood. "Hi, Marco," Siggy called out. "Nice job." Marco only heard him say, "Bark, bark, bark." Then without looking, he accidentally banged his thumb with the hammer. "Oh dear, I bet that was painful." "Ouch," yelled Marco. Siggy scampered on, keeping his eyes on the swooping, swirling bag as it flew ahead of him. Should we turn the page and see what happens? He ran past some children playing on the village swings and roundabout. They were Hetty, Phoebe and Phyllis. "Hello, Phyllis," barked Siggy happily. "Hello, girls. Can't stop. I'm chasing this paper bag." "Siggy's funny," said Hetty. "Bark, bark, bark," giggled Phoebe. "I think he said he's chasing that paper bag," said Phyllis, who could sometimes understand what Siggy said. Can you understand what your pets say? When you get to know them, it makes it much easier. You know what their barks mean, don't you? Should we turn the page and see what else is happening? Siggy kept running and soon ran past Vivian the artist. "Hello, Vivian," he said. "Can't stay in a rush." Vivian looked up from her painting. She heard him perfectly because she was a bit magical and could talk to all the local fairies and sprites too. "No problem, Siggy," she called. "Come back later. I'll have some hortobadjai for you." Siggy loved hortobadjai. which are pancakes stuffed with all sorts of delicious things that sausage dogs love. Sounds yummy, answered Siggy, but he hurried on after the sparkly paper bag. He scampered up a mossy bank, leading away from the village and into shady woods. Is he going to get into trouble? This book has a little bit of magic in it. We've already met someone with a little bit of magic. She could speak to Siggy, couldn't she? Shall we carry on? Siggy ran under the trees, watching the paper bag fly ahead of him. Then it stopped abruptly as it got caught in some branches high above. Oh no, thought Siggy. There is no way I can get the bag now. I'm only a little sausage dog after all. Hello, Siggy. What are you doing today? Called a familiar voice. He stopped in his tracks for the first time. It was Anya, the woodland sprite. She was Siggy's friend, and she was full of magic. Most people wouldn't see Anya or other fairies and sprites, but Siggy saw her perfectly because doggies can see fairies. When you're walking with your doggy and he seems interested in something that's not really there, that's usually because he's saying hello to a fairy. And sometimes children can see them too, if they believe in magic. Do you? Anya was sitting on one of her favourite blue flowers, near her little house by the red mushrooms. I was chasing that paper bag, but now it's stuck in that tree, replied Siggy. Hello, Anya. How are you today? Anya grinned at Siggy. I'm feeling fabulous, she laughed. I'm going to see Phyllis in a moment. Would you like to come? Usually I would, said Siggy, but I need to get this bag first. I made a promise. Said Anya, thinking. Yes, that bag belongs to Mrs. Channer, doesn't it? And you promised to get it for her, didn't you? Yes, Siggy answered. OK, said Anya, let me see if I can help. She took out her tiny wand and chanted something that sounded like, paper bag, come to me, through the woods and shady trees, special sparkly paper bag. Let go the branches, don't you snag. Come to Siggy, miss that twiggy, don't make a fuss. Now come to us. It's quite a magical spell, isn't it? What do you think is going to happen? The paper bag began to wiggle back and forth in the branches. It broke free and drifted gently towards Anya as if guided by her voice. Anya caught it in her tiny hands and the bag glowed bright white for a few seconds. Mrs. Channer will be pleased, Anya beamed, and she gave the bag to Siggy. Thank you, smiled Siggy. Now I can take it back. Good boy, said Anya. First, here's some fairy cake for you too, you clever little sausage. Siggy's tail wagged very quickly. He loved being called a good boy, and he loved fairy cake as well. Yum, yum. Siggy said goodbye to Anya and trotted back toward the village, still enjoying his cake. Then he began to think about those lovely pancakes Vivian was making. Yum, yum. He hurried back into the village, proudly carrying the shiny paper bag in his mouth. But he couldn't stop thinking about delicious things, and soon he forgot what he was supposed to do with the bag. He stopped to think. Oh dear, Siggy worried as he paced very slowly. He saw Marco in his red shirt. Was he supposed to give the bag to Marco? No, that didn't seem right. He walked past Vivian. Was he supposed to give the bag to Vivian? Siggy didn't think so. He didn't feel like a clever sausage anymore. "Hello again, Siggy. Are you ready for pancakes?" she asked. Siggy really did want some pancakes. Yum, yum. But just then he remembered what he'd promised to do. "I'd really love to," he said, "but I have to take this bag back. I promised." "That's okay," answered Vivian. "See you next time." Siggy wagged his tiny tail and scampered off again. He knew where to go. As soon as Mrs. Channer saw Siggy scurry around the corner, she exclaimed, "Oh, Siggy, you've found my bag. Thank you so much." Siggy looked delighted and his tail wagged even faster. "Aren't you clever, Siggy?" laughed Mrs. Channer. She held out her hand and Siggy scooted up to her with the bag. She was wearing a beautiful sari and he loved the way it shone and glittered. Mrs. Channer was a little bit magical too, so she could hear Siggy just like Vivian, Anya and Phyllis could. "I thought I'd lost this beautiful silk chunny for good," she said, pulling out a headscarf with golden embroidery. "You've saved my daughter's special birthday surprise." "Glad to help," said Siggy. "Love the scarf. This makes me so happy. Thank you, Siggy." She patted Siggy's head and stroked his soft ears gently. "Wait here a moment," said Mrs. Channer. "You deserve a reward for being such a good boy." Siggy beamed. He loved being called a good boy. Mrs. Channer quickly went inside, where she'd been making curwist, and came out with one of her delicious, spicy sausages. "Who's a good boy?" she cooed, petting the delighted little dog. "Is it me? Is it me?" asked Siggy excitedly. "It's me, isn't it?" He wagged his tail so fast he almost took off like a helicopter. "Yes," smiled Mrs. Channer, "it is you." She patted him again and gave the tasty sausage to the little sausage dog. "And this is so spicy, it may turn you into a hot dog." Siggy felt 10 feet tall, even though he was only a little dachshund. He thanked Mrs. Channer again, and then he swaggered off towards home with the yummy sausage in his mouth. He was feeling very, very happy. Siggy decided that he liked hortobadjai pancakes and he adored fairy cake, but apart from keeping promises and helping his friends, there's nothing a sausage dog loves better than sausages. This was quite a magical book, wasn't it? Wasn't it fun? And Siggy's such a lovely, kind dog. Do you keep promises? If you promise to do something, do you make sure that you carry it out? Do you get a reward sometimes for that? It's all about being good, isn't it? There was another book I read about, Alphabet for Humanity. It's all about doing good in the world and all the letters of the alphabet. This is another one of those wonderful books that you should read again and again, and you can treasure it. So hope to see you again soon on Fun Story Factory. Bye-bye for now.